Hey friends, Dawn here, welcoming you to the Soul Goals podcast and year number 3. This year, we are diving into expanding our perspectives, challenging our belief systems, and working the mental and emotional muscles of our souls. Though still all about growth and connection, this year finds opportunities to hear from people in our communities that have walked a path that might be different from our own, but that ultimately present us with the chance to look at a subject in a different light and learn other ways we could approach challenges in our own world. Let's get to it. Hi guys, Dawn here at the Soul Goals podcast. If you're looking behind me, you'll see I'm still not in studio. I am on vacation yet for week number 2, but never fear. Next week, we bring new episodes to you with some wonderful interviews. That's going to wrap up season 3, if you can even believe that. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it. I'm really grateful for the time, for the last 3 years. It's been so wonderful being able to connect with people the way I have, being able to bring their stories and their subjects and all of their life to you, the listeners. So thank you so much for following. Thank you for the subscribes. Thank you for the DMs, all the messages that you've sent. Let's go into week number 2 replay from one of my favorite episodes of this season so far, and apparently another one of yours, because it's the episode that received the most messages, the most DMs, the most interest about the subject matter this season so far. And that is the subject of body image. Had this great conversation with Macy Pruett of the Fittest Core. Now, if you're not following her on Instagram, I would highly suggest you jump in there and listen up. Like, join her, follow her. She's a great person, wonderful perspective on body image, self-confidence, and self-awareness in health and general, how we move through the world in our skin and the beliefs that we create around our self-image and our body image. The conversation was so great, so valuable. She's so meaningful and lives from the heart. It's a beautiful talk that we had together. And let's replay it so that if you've already listened to it, you can pull some new tidbits from it, because I guarantee you, you're going to. And if you haven't had a chance to listen in, again, you're in for a treat on this replay. This is Macy Pruett of the Fittest Core talking to us about body image. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Soul Goals podcast. My name is Dawn, and right next to me, I have the beautiful Macy Pruett from Nashville, Tennessee. Hi, Macy.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I love that you're here. And I wanted to say, if you're not watching this, you really should go on YouTube and see the beautiful green wall and the green behind you. It's stunning on you.
Thank you.
You're just a stunning person inside and out all the way around. You have this really beautiful glow to you. So
thank you. That's so sweet. Thank you.
Okay. Well, it's honest. I'm totally true. So if you're not tuning in on the visual, everybody go to YouTube, check it out. Macy has a platform called Fittest Core, and she is here in Nashville. She has been a certified personal trainer. We were just talking about this for over a decade, like 12 plus years now. And what her Fittest Core platform deals with is pre-pregnancy, pregnancy, postpartum recovery, and everything in between for moms that may be struggling, that moms that need that information, need that boost, kind of need that lift. You also do one-on-one coaching. And I will say, with this app, because the Fittest Core is an app, so across the country, you have clients all over the place, not just centralized in Nashville. So
yes, I have clients in Australia and New Zealand and Croatia. I have clients all over the world, which is absolutely insane and incredible. It's very, very cool.
Gosh, I love that. And we initially met when I was transitioning out of the personal training world, and you were coming into it. And I was like, you just carry, when you meet those people and they just carry this really great energy about them. So I love that you're doing what you're doing, and you're gifting so much information to women that need it, mothers that are needing it, expectant mothers that are needing it. I think there was a real gap. And I believe that's probably the reason that you started your program and your platform with that gap. So
100%.
tell me a little bit about what it was that made you say, this is missing. I want to address this with women in all these different places.
Yeah, it was my first pregnancy. I have been an athlete my whole life. And so movement has always been a piece of not only what I do, but who I am. And so I got pregnant with my first, who is now 5. And I realized quickly, like, what do? I don't know what is safe. I don't know what's beneficial. And, with your first pregnancy, there is all this fear of am I going to hurt baby? And is this okay? And I very quickly realized that that was the case. And I wanted to figure out what I could do. And because I didn't want movement to not be a part of my pregnancy. And so I really quickly started learning and researching and got my certification in pre and postnatal. And I created my very first prenatal program. And it was actually what I did myself during my first pregnancy, which has kind of been the name of the game with my whole platform. Is any program that I have created, it's what I use as well during that phase of motherhood. And so, yeah, it all started because I personally felt that gap in education, and I wanted to learn it for myself and therefore help other women not feel, clueless or helpless or overwhelmed by what they
Mm,
can or can't do when they're
yeah.
pregnant.
That's a great word, overwhelmed, because I think, and I'm a mother of 2 as well, and I think back to those times when I was raising one child and I was pregnant with the other and the
Mhm,
overwhelm that comes with it. So having a voice like yours to kind of bounce things off of and to
mhm.
talk back and forth about education for your specific circumstances, I think that's really the caveat that I think you carry. And as a one-on-one coach, you can do that so specifically for people. And
Mhm.
I love that you have clients in Australia and Croatia.
Isn't
It's
that
amazing.
cool? It's really special. It's crazy that there are women all over that trust me, and I get to connect with women all over the world. I feel very special for sure.
Oh, well, I love that. But today we want to talk specifically about the subject of body image. And I know for me, that has a huge, deep well of a lot of information that
Mhm,
I'm open and talking about from my struggle with an eating disorder years ago,
mhm,
and what that personally provided for me, and in what direction that went for me, and how I kind of went in my platform, and kind of how I went in my movement. Like what you were talking about for you creating Fittest core, because it came out of something that was personal for you and something that you felt you needed. So I think a lot of our experiences are born out of that place of personal experience, that personal need, and
mhm.
the circumstances that we walk through. So let's just jump right into this topic of body image, because
Yeah.
I know you're seeing it every day with your expectant moms, with your new moms, with your pregnant clients as well. But even on the front end of that, or the back end of all of that, there's such a huge buzz around body image. Like we
Mhm,
say that word, and I mean, throw it in the hat. There's going to be 5 gazillion different things you can say about it.
mhm.
So, all that being said, your relationship with your body, I think, is it's interesting because you talked about this being so important to you, something that you didn't really know about, and that
Mhm.
being the start for you. Was there ever anything that went beyond that for you, that went, body image to me, what does that personally mean? And how does that fit into my platform?
Yeah, and I love this topic, which when you reached out to me to do this and said it was body image, I was like, "Oh, I'm not going to pass this up because it's such an important conversation." And so I think body image means something different for everybody. Obviously, to answer it for myself, there is the obvious answer of how you see yourself, right? I mean, if
Mhm.
we're taking the word image literally, like it is how we view ourselves, but and view our body, of course, but it's also how you feel in it. And that is one thing that I have really had to work on in my personal journey, is that body image isn't just the aesthetic piece of it. It is also how I feel in my body, and learning and really focusing on what my body's capable of. And that is more of what it means to me. And it's, of course, there are good days where I feel that. There are bad days where I have to work on it. And it's what I do try to teach all women that I work with, is that, our bodies, yes, there is an aesthetic piece to why we work out. Of course, we would be lying if we said that there wasn't a piece of that.
Yeah.
But I think it's a beautiful shift when we can focus on body image as also being, it can be aesthetic and it can be a feeling. How do we feel in our body? When we look in the
Mm.
mirror, how do we feel in it? And really focusing on what it's capable of, what it's done, what it's creative. And, I know both of us are moms. I that what we have done and what we've grown in our bodies and created life. I mean, it's an amazing thing. And so body image to me is, it's, yes, of course, how we see our body, but it's also how we feel in it and how we feel about it, and remembering what it's capable of.
Yeah, I love that you said "and." It's
Mhm.
this and this. I don't think, and I will go to my grave saying this, I think you can have 2 different experiences that exist in the same bowl,
For
and
sure.
that's what you're saying, and you're totally right. We would be lying if we said we weren't driven and had the desire to look a certain way. But or I should say,
Mhm.
and how does that fit with the feeling? I know for
Yes.
me, with my experience, I had to get to a point where it was like, I realized how badly I feel by doing what I was doing to my body at that time.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so the scale was so completely crazy off. And when I figured out how to balance that feeling and what I needed to do to make myself feel good on a daily basis or an hourly basis or on a moment to moment basis, what that foundation was for me, it helped kind of let me off the hook, if you will.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
And I think that the viewing ourselves and the feeling, those 2 things really totally totally go
Yeah.
hand in hand. Yeah. Was there ever a moment where your idea of your body changed? Like where you were thinking, "Oh, I felt really good about it, and now I don't feel good about it," and or maybe opposite, or I didn't feel good about it, and now I do feel good about it. Is there any specific moments that you can say, "This is when it happened for me, and this is how that happened for me personally?"
Yeah, I think there's 2 different there's pre-motherhood and there's after becoming a mom for sure. Um, and I know we'll probably get into this later, but the before having kids, I would say my image changed for the worse. I ran track in college and ended up having a torn labrum in my hip, and it basically ended my track career. I had a huge surgery, and it was the first time in my life that unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that I had this feeling or this awareness, but it was the first time in my life that I couldn't, uh, I guess, essentially work off what I was eating, right? And
Mhm.
I didn't know that I viewed fitness track, should literally be speaking, because that was the sport that I played. I didn't know that I viewed track as that, or that the 2 were correlated, but once I had my surgery and I could not move,
Mm.
I realized that those 2 are correlated, and that was when I developed my eating disorder, and so that was when a shift for the obviously worse happened. Was
Mhm.
There was so much value that I had placed in my body image. And, now I can look back and say that, and I just want to hug myself at that point. And I think so many female athletes do experience this, because there is so much value. A lot goes into how we look. We work very hard on it. And there is, whether it's a spoken one or not, there is an expectation to look a certain way.
Mhm.
And I had never been overweight. I'd always been so strong and so in shape, and this was the first time in my life where I was like, "Whoa, what's going to happen if I'm not doing all of these activities, and I'm not running and working out and all of that?" And so that's when that shifted, and so that I would say that was for the worse, and it was a big lesson in body image, and
Mhm.
really what your worth is found in. And it was a very
Mhm.
aha moment, and like, hey, I am more than my body. I am worth more than that. And it took me a long time to learn that and unlearn a lot of things. And I'm happy to say I'm recovered. It's been about 8 years. I'm able to talk about it freely and very openly, in hopes of helping other women. But yeah, I would say pre-kids, that was a shift for the worst, obviously.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then after kids, it was, it's very hard during first pregnancy to see your body change. Um, but once my son was born, my why shifted, and
Ah.
I no longer trained or worked out to look a certain way. It truly was to be something. And I wanted to be the strongest for my son that I could be. And there was so much beauty in what I had just done, and growing him and birthing him and feeding him, and all of these things, that there was this almost, I guess, newfound respect for my body. And that was
Wow,
really
yeah.
when that shift was made into, okay, like, I can work out
Mm.
for other reasons. It doesn't have to be aesthetic. I can work out because I want to be like my why is my son. I want to be the healthiest I can be for him. And that was a shift for the good. And that's still my why. I train for motherhood and to be the strongest and most capable and healthiest that I can be for both of my boys.
I love that. Train for motherhood.
Mhm.
That's such a great piece. And we kind of go back into a little bit about when you were talking about your past and when you were taken out of your sport and the fears that came up with that.
Mhm.
Man, that fear of the unknown for so many of us is such a big deal.
Yeah.
And I know for me, it's that control. Like when I feel like the other things were out of control in my life, that's just the one thing that I could control was my
Yep.
body, what it was that I was putting into it, what I was that I was not putting into it, what I was, the behaviors around that whole mechanism that I had
Mhm.
strategically put in place because of fear of the unknown. So,
Totally.
yeah, so as an athlete, I think it's really interesting because both of my daughters are college athletes as well,
Mhm.
and the injury situation that happens is a huge checkpoint of whoa, like I almost think I almost think it can be a gift for us to go,
Yeah.
slow down. Let's take a bigger look. Let's zoom out and look at the picture bigger about where your worth really is. If it's tied to your sport, is it tied to your body? Is it tied to
Yeah.
something outside of that inner knowing that we are as people? And as females, too, that whole drive to look a certain way it's such a dominant thing. It's such a dominant.
Yeah. Yeah.
We think about social media stuff and like how that is how we are perceiving women in general. And
Yeah.
then we think about what you're doing with, you know, pregnant ladies as well as postnatal. I mean, think about when I had both of my kids, the months that followed were really
Mhm.
hard.
Mhm.
The
Yes.
hormones that are shifting, first of all, and how that affects your brain and your
Totally.
body is quickly changing, getting pregnant as well as through the pregnancy and then as well as that postpartum time period.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what you're seeing in the struggles in that community for you, for what your clients are really kind of having to unpack about their body image through those pieces of time.
Yeah, the most common thing I hear, and this can kind of circle back to what our topic of, using the word and not but. The most common thing I hear is, I'm so thankful for what my body just did, and I'm so thankful for my babies, but I don't recognize myself anymore. And my response to that is always, hey, I hear you, but both things can exist. You
Mm.
can be so thankful for what your body just did, and you can want to feel different in it. And that doesn't, one feeling doesn't take away from the other. Just because you want to feel a different way in your body or you want to see it change doesn't take away your gratefulness for motherhood and what all your body has accomplished. That's the most common conversation. It's always centered around I don't recognize myself anymore. And I shouldn't say always. The most common conversation is I don't recognize myself anymore, or I don't feel good in my skin. And
Mm.
it's so real because it's such a massive shift. And it's, when you become a mom, you change as an individual too, right? It's not even just your body. And
Yeah.
so there's
Yeah.
so much learning and accepting, and it's so much easier said than done, and it takes so much work and so much time. And that's what I wish was construed more, that that's where social media misses the boat. Is there's all of these images and transformations and all of that, which, like, yes, can be, you know uh, motivational and inspiring and all of those, and everybody's transformation is vastly different, and there's no right timeline for, healing and recovery and transforming your body. And I wish that social media portrayed it in a different way, because I think a lot of women see, the crazy transformations are the ones that took 3 months instead of 3 years, and they think, well, that's how it's done, that's how why don't I look this way? And it's just, everybody's different. It's not supposed to be that way. You don't look that way because that's not your body. Everybody's journey is so different.
Yeah, and I think that social media piece, we can get so caught up in seeing
Mhm.
that and going, and not recognizing ourselves, kind of going back to what you were just saying, when we don't recognize ourselves initially, I don't think we're giving ourselves the power to stand in who we really are, to be able to
Mhm.
look at that social media post and go, okay, that's them. I can separate myself from what they're saying and from what their
Yes,
experience is, and trust that my body and my brain and my path is different and it's still beautiful, you
totally.
know? You
Yeah.
said something earlier about unlearning, when you had
Mhm.
to unlearn behavior. I think that's really an interesting piece. And I just love the and. There's not a
Mhm.
but. It's the and. Two things can exist, and this exists simultaneously. But unlearning some of those old behaviors, I believe, is a really challenging thing. How do you help clients with that piece? I mean,
Yeah,
because
it's
obviously, like I will think about my personal training days. I really think I should have probably gone to gotten my master's in psychology,
yeah,
because we're
yes,
dealing with such emotional pieces when someone's working out. They're
for sure,
releasing and letting go and opening, like cracking themselves wide open.
for
And some of
sure.
the things that come out are so vulnerable and so trusting for us as trainers.
Mhm.
So how do you hold that for those clients, and how do you help them with that piece?
Yeah, well, what's funny about that is I thought I wanted to be a therapist. I graduated from college with a degree in therapy, which is
Really?
and so that's really how I wound up doing what I do now. I have a very genuine love for people and kind of, yeah, people's stories and why they are the way they are. I ended up not wanting to take the whole extra school counseling route, and thank God I didn't, because I am where I am today. But yeah, my combined love for fitness and really people and that like therapeutic psychological side of them is why I do what I do now. But yeah, I mean, holding that for them first and foremost, I genuinely I love that. I love to have people open up to me and talk to me, and I think I'm a good listener, and I like to hear people's their whys, or how they became who they are, and what they're currently dealing with, what their struggles are, and what they're proud of, all of these things that we can get out of people. And when you are, as you just stated, when you are with somebody in a vulnerable state, which personal training is, that, like you said, it opens up a lot of wounds or emotions and feelings. And I think that we I think knowing that going into a training situation is great, and being able to accept that with open arms and listening. And what makes me be able to do that in this stage of life and do that with moms is because I've done it.
Mhm.
I've been through it. And of course, not every motherhood journey and story is the same by any means, but I have been pregnant twice. I've had a colicky baby. I've you know, had mastitis. I've had the sleepless nights. Like, I've been through all of these real life situations that do overflow into movement and how we're choosing to move our body and how we're showing up for that. And so being able to train these women from a place of empathy and understanding is first and foremost. That's where I always train from. I actually tell my clients when we have our first call, like I have 3 coaches that work with me as well, but all of the Fittest core coaches do train first and foremost from a motherhood perspective. And I think that that really makes a big difference, because the it might have been encouraging when we were 21 to hear never miss a Monday, but right now that would make me want to dump my coffee out on somebody, right? And
Yes,
so
yes.
just
Even me now, like with my kids being older,
right,
I just I feel like that phrase, it's so interesting. I used to say it all the time. I'm
right,
tell myself that.
right.
I used to say it all the time, and now I'm like, yeah,
Yes.
that's it feels so, like, crushing. Like, if I
Yes.
don't do that, then I
Well,
am
like
a
you're failing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And that's motherhood obviously comes first for every woman that I train as well. Obviously, they're prioritizing that over their workout routine and their nutrition. And so that's how I want to train them. I want to train them first and foremost as moms who are choosing to do this and work hard for themselves. And that does allow me and all of my coaches to really just train from a place of empathy, which I think makes a really big difference. And I think it's why my clients do have success, because they feel very seen in what they're doing. And it doesn't have this mentality of, Oh, my kids stayed up, I had a sleepless night and I don't have it in me today. Like, I'm going to say, okay, like drink some extra coffee, take the day off. Like you need
Yes.
it. We'll pick back up tomorrow, and just lovingly coaching women through what they're trying to do makes a really big difference.
And being adaptable is what I'm hearing you say,
Mhm.
and that you're giving them permission to be adaptable to their
Mhm.
day, to the circumstances, to the sleepless nights,
For
to
sure.
the colicky child, to the all the things, to the sick baby in the middle of the night, all
Mhm.
of the different things, because there's no absolute for any of us. And that's so cool that you went to school for therapy and
Mhm.
doing this. It's a really nice combination of the two. I feel like everyone needs to know, your clients obviously know they're in such good hands, but what you're giving people is not just the physical movement, it's that emotional container. You're holding a big
Mhm.
container for them, which is
Mhm.
great. So that just makes me love you more, Macy.
Oh, thank you, Dawn. That's really sweet.
Yeah. And I will say that I do believe that we teach what we know. So if we're going back to
Yeah.
that whole platform about, you've been a mom 2 times, you've been in all those different situations. So you understand when you get on a call with a one-on-one client and they're like, I didn't work out for 3
Mhm.
days. I
Mhm.
had X, Y, and Z, and I feel this way about it. You can give them that grace and say, that's okay. Because I think sometimes we just need somebody to hear us. You're a great listener. Totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Women, we're on the topic of moms. Obviously, that's who I work with, but moms want to be seen and they want to be heard. And so I think first and foremost, validating them and what their experience is it sounds so simple, but it goes a very, very long way for sure.
Yeah. And it expands beyond just moms. I mean, every
Totally.
person that I know, right? Me, you, and
Totally.
myself, including you, we want to be seen and heard. It's a really important, vital force that I believe draws us. And this is another reason that I created the Soul Goals platform. It's about
Mhm.
connection and relatability, and how
Yeah.
we can connect with other people to relate and show our shared experiences, and how they may be different, but there's the emotions and the feelings behind so many things for us as fundamental humans it's so similar. It really
Totally.
is. It's
Yeah.
just we're wearing just different hats. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
humans having different experiences, but it's in the same bowl, if you will.
Mhm.
So I want to talk a little bit about the bounce back theory, since we're going in
Yes.
this position about where you're dealing with women that their bodies are changing super quickly. And what does that look like? I mean, again, we know you're holding that container for them, both emotionally and physically. But when you hear someone say, a comparison, I saw X, Y, and Z yesterday, and she's really bouncing back a lot better than me,
Mhm.
and I feel like I'm lacking. What's your theory on the bounce back theory, as it is?
Mhm. If you're not watching this, I'm rolling my eyes just so that you know what I think about it.
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
hate, 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 hate the phrase. And let me preface with saying I understand it. I understand the want and the desire to crave your, dare I say, old body, right? Your pre-baby body. I understand that. But the bounce back culture is so stupid because our body literally changes after kids. It is physically impossible to bounce back. So even if you do lose every single pound that you gained and more or less look the exact same as you did, it's still not even the same body. You haven't bounced back. And I'm sure you've heard it before, and it may sound cheesy, but it's more of spring forward, right? Or moving forward.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's so much beauty in that phrase because it is a new body. Our organs shift, our bones move. Like you'll see a lot of women with wider hips after having kids, and that's because their body literally moved their hip bones to make room
Yeah.
for baby. And I think that is so cool. I think it is fascinating that a female body is capable of doing that. And knowing that that is why our body looks different and changed, there's so much beauty in that. There's so much empowerment in that. And I think
Mhm.
accepting, which is again, it's easier said than done. I've had to work on it too. We all do, but accepting that your body will never be the same and there is beauty in that is so, so, so helpful. And My favorite time to train women, actually, I love training moms in all seasons, whether they're trying to conceive or pregnant or postpartum, but my favorite time to train a mom is actually when she's done having kids. Once she's closed that chapter, she knows she's done, because it is, in my opinion, the most empowering time. And being a part of so many moms learning to love their body even more than they did before having kids is one of the most beautiful things to witness in the world, because I think ultimately so many of us, if not the majority of us, go into a postpartum workout routine, fitness regimen, whatever it is, hoping to get back in our pre-baby jeans or to look how we did before kids, because that was, up until then, really probably the smallest we've been, especially after obviously pregnancy and gaining that weight. And so that, whether we admit it or not, I do think that that is the goal. And so women that kind of surpass that like pre-baby body that they thought was it, and they see an even better, stronger, healthier, more confident, more beautiful version of their body, there is no cooler thing to witness. And I wish I could scream from the rooftops that it is possible for every single mom to accomplish that. And most of my clients have heard me say this, but I call it, if I were having this conversation with you, Dawn, I would say this is Dawn 2.0. Like you've been Dawn, and now we are entering Dawn 2.0 era. And this is when you get to be who you're really supposed to be, right? And physically, emotionally, all of those things. And I could talk about it forever because I just think it's the coolest thing ever. So yeah, all that to say, I don't like bounce back. I think that it's dumb because nobody will ever bounce back. It's because your body's changed. And I think there's so much beauty in that.
Yeah. Well, it's like anything. And I think the whole gamut of what you just said is letting yourself off the hook for getting back to some kind of false expectation of what you think it's going to be, because it is literally impossible. I actually had this conversation with a client about a month ago. So look out my window. There is grass growing right now. And that blade of grass may look similar next year, but it's never going to fundamentally be the same. If we look at it from a scientific standpoint and we're to take that blade of grass and analyze it at the exact same time next year as it is right now, it's going to be different. So if we look at it from a scientific standpoint, your body is different. And again, it goes back to the and statement, beauty, it can be beautiful and accepting.
Totally.
So let's talk just a little bit about the accepting piece, because I think that stands to have some good conversation about it. Do you believe that when we get to that point of accepting our bodies, that it's an age thing, it's an experience thing, or is it we've had something that's happened that's forced us to go, I have to do this now? And maybe your personal experience can speak on that too.
Sure.
What does that mean for you?
I think that, I think there's so many factors into that. For me personally, it was becoming a mom and accepting my body, like we talked about a few minutes ago, loving it for what it's capable of and what it's done versus what it looks like. So yeah, I mean, for me, it was, having the most life-changing experience, which is becoming a mom. And that changed everything for me and accepting my bodies. And that's, I don't, every single day, do I accept my body? No, there are still days where it's hard, or I look at myself and I'm like, ugh, because we're human and we all have that. But most days are good days. And it's taken, I want to point this out. It's taken a lot of work. It does take a lot of work. And I don't mean physically, I mean mentally. It takes a lot of work to get to that place. And it is a constant effort, I believe. And it requires a lot of self-love. I feel like that phrase is thrown out very probably too much, but it does require a lot of self-love. It requires a whole lot of self-talk. How you talk to yourself is huge. It is huge. And that's been one thing too that's very, I don't have daughters. I know you can speak to this more, Dawn, probably, but I have 2 boys. And it's not that it's not as important with boys, but especially with my female clients, I really tell them, like, you are setting the image and the example of how a girl should talk about herself and how she should look for herself. Again, I'm doing that for my boys too. I I only say positive things about my body in front of my boys because I want them to hear that example, because boys have body images too. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
more, we females are harder
absolutely.
on ourselves, of course, but you know, my point being, we as parents do have that, I don't even want to say responsibility, but that privilege. I think it's a privilege that we
Ooh,
have to
that's beautiful. Yeah.
teach what body image can be for our children. And
Mhm.
I know for me, I'm 34. I grew up, in the 90s, and that the way that women talked about themselves was solely based, from what I remember as a child, solely based around a number and size and how small can we be. And that was the almond mom era, and all the like Adkins diet, like all of those things that
Yeah.
now are of the past, I think, mostly. And um, I know a lot of women that I talk to in my generation and my age talk about the unlearning that we've had to do in body image not being about a number or size, and about it being, the whole message of this conversation that we've had the whole time about what
Right.
your body's capable of. And so yeah, I feel like I've kind of gone on a tangent there, but I think it's very cool that parents get to teach their kids, hey, this is how we talk about our body. We talk positively, and I think that goes a very long way.
Yeah. I'm going to share something with you. When I found out I was pregnant with my
Mhm.
first daughter, yeah, obviously so excited. I didn't even know I was pregnant until I was probably 5 or 6 weeks along, which is
Okay.
crazy, which tells
Yeah.
me that I was still, and at that time I was still working, doing a lot, doing the work. Like you said,
Mhm.
it takes a lot of self work.
Yep.
And I got to that point where went in for the ultrasound to see what the sex of the baby was. And they told me it's a girl. And I walked out of that ultrasound office crying, and not
Mhm.
tears of joy, tears
Mhm.
of anxiety,
Yeah.
because all I could think was, oh my gosh, I'm growing this beautiful human that's healthy, but I said the but, not the and,
Mhm. Mhm.
but it's a girl. And I just walked through a lot of shit of my own,
Yeah.
really bad
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
How am I going to be responsible? How am I going to be trusted to raise a daughter with that background that I had to walk through? I'm going to mess this up so
Yeah.
badly. And it took a good bit of time for me to go, all right, let's unlearn,
Mhm.
let's give grace, let's find understanding for the process, and let's create the and instead of the but. And
Yeah.
that was such a big thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
and I do wanna also go back to the self-talk. That
Mhm.
self-talk that you were talking about is vital. Whether
Yeah.
you've got, whether you are pregnant for the first time, pregnant for the 5th time, whether you are empty nesting
Yeah.
as a woman. Let's just talk across the board. The self-talk that goes into our belief about ourselves
Mhm.
beyond just the physical piece of our
Mhm.
body is
Yeah.
such a big deal. How do you help women with that piece, other than just letting them know they're seen and they're heard? Is there
Yeah.
anything specific that's coming up that you're seeing is trending in body image along that line in terms of the self-talk? Do you see it getting better? Do you see it becoming easier?
I think it, like anything, it ebbs and flows, and I think it also really depends on not only the season that woman is in, but also her support too. I think that it would be fair for me to give credit where credit is due. I have an insanely incredible, supportive husband who has never made me feel anything but beautiful and confident and loved. All of those things, and that does play a part. And whether it's a husband or a partner or a parent or a group of friends, whoever it is that is your support system, it is important that they are talking to you that way as well. And I think that, um, on my bad days, Chase is my husband, is who I go to, and he's quick to kind of course correct and make me feel better. And so I think that's kind of how I would do it with, if I'm dealing with a client that's feeling that, it's quick to remind them the positives, right? Again, validate them in their feelings always, but it's after that validation comes, like I said, course correction, right? And reminding them what they're capable of. I know the most common thing, kind of to answer your question, that at least I see, is so many women are still very, very heavily tied to a scale. And
Oh,
There's
wow. Yeah.
so much
Mm.
validation and information in a scale. And I encourage all of my clients to ditch the scale because it's really
Mhm.
it's not the best form of measurement. A
Mhm.
female body, for those of you who don't know, this is a crazy fact that I wish they taught us in school, but the female body fluctuates 7 pounds within a week. Like we are not meant to be the same weight. We have a menstrual cycle. We have stress levels. We have, bowel movements. Like there are
Yeah.
things that go into our weight, and no human is ever going to weigh the same thing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's
Mhm.
impossible. And especially for females, that's even more so the case. And so I think the most common thing that I end up hearing is, the scale hasn't moved much, but da 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 da, or my weight's still the same, but. And so
Mhm.
that's when it's always like, okay, but how are your pants fitting? And typically it's like, well, I'm 2 pant sizes down. I'm like, okay, that's
Let's
huge,
go with that.
right?
It's massive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, I am confident in shorts for the first time in 3 years, where I
Ooh.
usually wore leggings. And so,
Mhm.
non-scale victories is what those would be called. And that's definitely kind of the most common thing in terms of body image that I hear is so much validation is really still tied to what the number on the scale is, which again, understandable, right?
Mhm.
That's what we were raised on. How much do you
I
weigh?
was
What
just
is
gonna say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I think trying to teach women to make that shift. And of course, there's a time and a place for a scale. I don't want somebody to hear this and not hear me say that. There is a time and a place for a weight, and health can be associated to that, but there are so many other ways to measure progress that you're making.
Yeah. The non-scale victories, that's a great
Mhm.
phrase. The
Yeah,
non-scale victories. I think it's super important to also note that it's where we put our attention is
totally.
predominant. And, another little side piece for you here. I remember in my eating disorder recovery having to take my scale to the dumpster at the apartment
Mhm.
complex I was living in and throw it away.
Yep.
And I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I did not realize how beholden I was to a number and to that
Mhm.
entity, that
Totally.
scale. Yeah, and I stood there and it took me 30 minutes to decide to put that in there.
Yeah.
I cried and
Yeah.
I grieved and I went, "Oh my gosh." For the first time, I realized just where I was putting so much of that
Yep.
attention. Where we put our attention is where it goes. And then unlearning those behaviors and unlearning those pieces. And you're right, it was what we were raised on. And the scales
Totally.
are important for a lot of different pieces and parts in our lives.
Mhm.
It's just what I have learned through my process is where our attention is put is the biggest piece for us.
For
And
sure.
the non-scale victories that you said, that's such a great phrase.
Yeah.
I love that because
Yeah.
it's so indicative again of letting ourselves off the hook as
Mhm.
women
Mhm.
for the fact that we don't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be just this way or just that. It's gray thinking. It's not black or
Right.
white,
Yes, 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 for sure.
that gray area. If you had a listener sitting in here today and was hearing this and was going, yeah, Macy, that's great, but you have no idea. Like, this is what I'm struggling with, and you really don't know what I'm dealing with, and this is why, and this is what that is. And that, I mean, they're in such a dark place with their body
Mhm.
image, with their feeling about their body in general, and with their experience. What would be some of the first words and some of the first things that you would say to that person outside of which I love you? We're going to validate them. We're going to let them know
Mhm.
that I hear what you're saying. I see you, and I understand how you could feel that way from
Yeah.
that therapeutic standpoint. But then beyond that, how do you approach somebody that would be in that deep kind of place of personal self discouragement?
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, validating, like you said, and letting her know that she's not alone and that those are, real feelings. But a lot of times, what I like to kind of ask questions back in that situation. So, one question in that example would be, what do you do for yourself? What makes you feel good? And oh gosh, a lot of the times when I ask that, it is a mom that I'm talking to and she says nothing. And so, a good follow-up question to that is, what what would feel good? What would you like to do for yourself? Or if, to kind of shift it from that, if you and I were to go sit down in 3 months from now and have coffee, and you were to tell me, I feel so good. I'm so glad I made this change. This is how I feel. I'm confident in my skin. What would have to take place between then and now to get you there? What would that look like? And sometimes it's, as simple as just starting to work out. And sometimes it's, I don't know. And so just kind of talking through almost the visualization of, this is where you're at now. Imagine what it would feel like to be here and to be feeling this way. And then helping her kind of decide like what's going to bridge the gap between those two places.
Yeah. So that feeling good, I think this is an interesting piece too, because when you're asking a question, what would make you feel good? What would be proper self-care for you? That kind of just went boom for me, because I feel like so many of us as women, as mothers, and as people that are females moving through this world, and all the different things that we have, like starting at 5 a.m. till 11 o'clock, a lot of times,
Yeah.
all the things that go with it. I think it's foreign to so many people. They don't even have a concept of what self-care, what they feel that they need, and how do you broach that? Where do you start with that?
Yeah.
And maybe it's just them being aware that they don't even know what that is, that
Yeah.
can make a switch.
For sure. Well, and I think a lot of times, I don't know if it's kind of the narrative that's in society or if it's a self narrative, but I think a lot of women feel like it's selfish to do that. And, the argument there is, it's a cliche for a reason, but you can't pour from an empty cup, right? I mean, it's not possible. And so, in my opinion, the least selfish thing a mom can do is pour into herself, because when you do that, you are a better mom, you're a better wife, you're a better friend, a better colleague. It's a ripple effect. When you pour into yourself, you can pour into others. And so I think helping a woman get to that train of thought, which is what, that it does take a lot of work, and it does take a lot of mental shifting and accepting that. But once you kind of see the difference in that, and you're like, oh, when I pour into myself, I'm a way better version of myself, then it's so worth it. And that can be a really big shift for a lot of people. And it's not selfish. It is not selfish to take care of yourself.
That is the biggest thing. And I love what you said too. It could be either. It could be our self-talk from our past experiences, from feeling like we've been in situations that have not been supportive. Let's go back to that for a minute.
Yeah.
You have to have a community that supports you. And if you don't have that, what that work looks like to find that, because it's so vital. That connection is, and that relatability, just, again, such a big piece. But seeing and feeling those things once you've found what works for you, like that's the win. That's I can take a deep breath.
Yeah.
But getting through the self-talk and getting through maybe the societal talk about it has to look like X, Y, and Z, which goes all the way back to the social media presence of whether you're seeing somebody that looks like they just had a baby 5 minutes ago and they are now a supermodel.
Right. Which they're out there and good for them.
Right. But the larger majority of people and where we are in the world and what we are dealing with on a day-to-day basis is not that.
For sure.
We don't have access to so many different things that a lot of people do, but we also have different bodies. This is the whole concept of this conversation, and understanding that in that beauty of having different bodies, the capability that our bodies bring to our worlds and the things that we do and the roles that we fill in our lives, it's just such a this and this communion, if you will. Such a big deal. Tell me what you hope every woman would feel about their body. What if you could wave a magic wand and women would go, oh my gosh, I feel this way. What would that be? What would your hope and your dream be for every woman to feel in their body?
Yeah. Empowered is the word that comes to mind, because I think empowered is kind of an umbrella of a lot of other things. I think when you feel empowered, you can feel confident and strong and beautiful. And it's kind of this, in my mind, like all-encompassing word of just empowered. I want every woman to look at herself and be like, hell yeah, like my
Mm.
body has done this. It's capable of this. I'm strong enough for this. I've overcome this, because the female body is amazing. There's no getting around that. It's what the
Mhm.
female body is capable of is insane. And that's I wish that females recognize that, because it's not just a few of us. It's every single female. Every single female's body is incapable
Totally.
is capable of so many things. And yeah, I think if there was one word, it would be just empowered by that.
Yeah, and empower, like you said, you can open that umbrella up, and there's
Yes,
so many different raindrops that go along with it. There's
for
so many
sure.
different pieces that go with it. But I think it starts with that feeling that I'm worthy, I
Mhm.
matter, I'm
Mhm.
seen and I'm heard, and finding the community to speak into that. And gosh, it just goes back to what you're doing. I think it's so real, it's so authentic, and it's so gracious holding that space for women that are in the ups and down cycles of, I think you said it earlier, to even trying to conceive. I mean, I know you work
Yeah.
with people that are in that process as well.
Mhm.
So there's frustrations. You're holding the emotion as well as the physical to try to bridge the gap between the two.
Yeah.
And then through pregnancy and postpartum, again with the hormones. And I think it's beautiful in talking about dealing with women that are done having children
Mhm.
and what empowerment looks like for them as well. Because I
Mhm.
can tell you at 50 plus, my empowerment statement is a whole lot different than it was when I was 25 having
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
So much different. It's life lived, I guess. So,
Yeah.
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 Oh gosh. How can people find you, Macy? Tell me how they can connect with you to either get you a message, to join up the program, to get on your app and learn a little bit more about what it is that you're providing everybody.
Yeah. Fittest core basically all around. Every platform is Fittest core. So on Instagram, that's where I'm most and I spend the most time there. I'm not as active on TikTok. But I'm on there, same thing, Fittest core. But Instagram, I really work hard to get back to as many messages as I can. So that's where I would say. And then my app is called Fittest Core as well. So you can download my app and work out with me.
Oh god, I love it. Love it. All sorts of programs. So and you can do the
Yes.
one-on-one coaching, which is
Yep,
another
mhm.
beautiful piece for you too. So
Yes.
and I love that you are connecting with people as often as you can and as much as you can, and being a mom and a wife and doing all of the
Yeah.
things and being gracious enough to tell all of us that I have good days and not so good days as a
Yeah,
human.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
we all do. Gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I've loved talking to you today,
I know it's been
Macy.
so fun. I could talk I'm so passionate about all the things that we've talked about. I could talk for hours about all of it.
Well, will you come back and let's do it again? I would
For
love to.
sure. I would love
Yeah,
to. I would love to.
totally. Totally. All right. Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, a great
Thank you,
rest of your
Dawn.
week. Oh gosh. And thank you so much for joining me. And
Thank you for
like
having
this,
me.
welcome. Deep conversation about body image is so important. And if you are a female, go out and know that you matter, you are worthy, and empowerment can be yours.
Yes. Thank you, Dawn.